Dude.
All right. I think we are. We're live, I believe.
Okay, cool.
All
I
right,
figured
Tony.
we'd do our tier talk on cookies.
Oh, on cookies, dude. We might
I
as
have
well.
strong opinions on that.
All right. Well, we might as well start with it then. I feel like we should just jump right into cookie talk.
You want me to go since you need to think?
Oh yeah, dude. I have no idea. Honestly, I need to hear your opinions first.
All right. Honorable mention is for my favorite cookies would have to be um those peanut butter ones with the Hershey Kiss,
Oh, like the peanut butter drop or whatever.
the blossoms or whatever they're called.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my honorable mention. My number three is gingerbread cookies. I think gingerbread's underrated.
I like gingerbread cookies.
Number two is chocolate chip, but they have to be like I like mine like super soft.
Okay.
I know some people like crunchy, like the crunchier ones, but I don't. And number one is has to be snickerdoodle.
Snickerdoodle.
I could uh I could demolish some snickerdoodle.
All right. All right. So I have to think of one word to describe your list.
One word.
Um, it's got to be unexpected. I didn't expect gingerbread out of you. I'll be
I
honest.
almost threw in like a good ricotta cookie,
I've never had one of those.
but sometimes they're really dry.
What's a ricotta cookie?
They're I mean you can make them a bunch of different ways. They just have ricotta in them. They're supposed to um make them more moist.
Hmm.
Um, but
Damn. Yeah, for me, all right. Let me. I was thinking of yours. Um, all right. So honorable mention is just gonna have to be peanut butter cookie, like in general, peanut butter cookie.
mhm.
Um, Man, I'm deciding if I want to flip. One, two, and three are so close. All right. Three has got to be sugar cookie, just, like Christmas cookies. But I also really like hard frosting on sugar cookies. Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
like the
like the.
royal icing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Two has got to be chocolate chip. Um, like anything chocolate chip, and I'm down for. Like, it can be like bagels, it can be pancakes, it can be um, muffins, anything. So chocolate chip is number two, and that was a really tight one with my number one. Like I was almost gonna switch two and one, but one has gotta be oatmeal raisin for me. Like I can down, and that is the most probably you're gonna hate it or you're gonna love it. It's like candy corn, and I am so down for oatmeal raisin cookies. I love those motherfuckers. What do you think,
My
Tony?
one word. Um, almost because
Almost,
I
it's the oatmeal, isn't it?
almost yeah
It's the
I almost
oatmeal.
completely agreed with you up until that.
Up until I jumped on the oatmeal
I just
raisin.
can't like I honestly don't mind raisins, but I just think
Them in a
they're
cookie
just
just doesn't work.
unnecessary. I just think in any dessert, like I don't know, I just think it's unnecessary.
I can vibe with that. I can understand that because it's like that's the same thing as people who put certain stuff in. I don't know. Like some people will do like bananas in certain stuff. I'm just like I don't know if I want bananas in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm a big raisin cookie guy, dude. We got a
You
lot to
like
talk about
so you
today.
like those oatmeal cream pies then? You ever had
Oh
those?
yeah, oh yeah, dude. I used
See, I
to.
like those.
My buddy, like his family would always have those when I'd go over to his house when I was like 10, and I would eat like four of them every time I was over there.
Have you ever heard of tasty cakes?
Mm-mm.
So my best friend growing up he was literally my neighbor my whole life. And like even when I was moving, like I moved twice and he was like they moved as well. It was just a coincidence right next to us. So he was just my best friend growing up, and his dad worked for Tasty Cake, which is like it's like Little Debbie. It's basically the same thing, but they make like donuts, pastries, and all that. And he would drive the truck around that would like, deliver these pastries to these stores,
Oh
and
my
he
goodness.
always had them. They were
Oh
always in the
my
truck.
goodness.
I probably stole thousands and thousands of dollars of Tasty Cakes
Oh my
because
gosh.
we just go in and take whatever and
The company's like, I don't know why this one store is losing. This
why are
one
there
store.
I can't seem to figure out why there's no Boston cream pie.
We're going bankrupt after this
Yeah,
one store lost 8,000 Boston cream pies this quarter. Dude, that's
that's
so
funny.
funny. Oh man, dude, we got CPI and FOMC next week. That is probably going to be the biggest week we've ever seen on SPY in our trading lifetimes. Like obviously we've had big times and stuff, and like SPY top was crazy, but I feel like next week is just shaping up to be like make or break. Like I feel like we're gonna send us on either like a death sprint to the upside to end the year, or we're just going to proceed to make new lows and die by the end of the year, depending on how next week goes. Um, do you have any strong opinions before we get into like the deep analysis of CPI and FOMC?
Um, Not necessarily any strong opinions, but I do think that at this point I don't see a reason for the number for it to be like an adverse number that's not expected.
Yeah,
Um, so if it does come in around the forecast or under what's expected, I think we run. Which is what normally happens. Um, I'll have to go back and look at the exact day of the last FOMC and CPI days just to kind of see how the last few have moved. But I do I do actually plan on probably overnighting some calls um for CPI due to the fact that it is in the morning during pre-market.
yeah,
But if I remember correctly, last time we kind of dipped and then ran pretty hard. I think we filled the gap pre-market and then ran pretty hard throughout the rest of the day. I could be wrong, but I think that was our last CPI day. Um, so not really any strong opinions, but I do think, I don't see a reason why the numbers would come in. Yeah, there'd be any, adverse numbers or whatever the case may be.
yeah. I think I'm really gonna be confused on like the market reaction because the last few economic events we've had have not moved like how you would expect. Based on like what Powell said, like he didn't really say anything overly bullish. He kind of honestly was a bit like in the middle, and
Yeah.
SPY rocketed last time around. So I'm gonna be interested to see what happens when we get these concrete numbers out because he's been talking a lot about inflation continuing to decrease. Like the last when he spoke, he talked tons about inflation starting to move to the downside, which we've seen. Inflation has declined a few months now, but we haven't seen it decline enough for them to feel comfortable yet as the Fed. And we've also seen Powell speaking about a possible decrease in rate hikes, which I don't mean they're not going to hike. I mean, instead of a 0.75 rate hike, it could be a 0.5 rate hike, which I think would personally, I wish they would just do another 0.75 rate hike because I feel like that would help us with inflation a bit faster because right now we're moving, but we're moving very slowly against inflation. So I would feel comfortable with them doing like maybe like one more of the higher rate hike and then decreasing it. So December FOMC is going to be huge for me personally from a fundamental perspective, based on like how fast I'm going to feel comfortable deploying cash and when I'm going to feel like maybe is market bottom. But CPI, personally, I'm worried that CPI is going to come in at, right on like what we expect, and the market is still going to tank. That's kind of my own worry, just based on how the market's been reacting this week. It feels like the Bears have like their dicks on the table this week, and they're just showing us, we're unwilling to let the Bulls have any room to even move this week. If you guys have been like trading this price action, you've been seeing like every single top has just been getting hammered to the downside. We've been seeing like the steps up, elevator down over and over and over and over this week. And I have no idea if that's gonna cease into next week before CPI on Tuesday morning, and then FOMC I believe is Wednesday. I'm not sure if that's going to just slow down here and maybe we get some end of week bullish moves. But for me, that's kind of making me a bit scared that we're going to see CPI end with the knife of all knives, rather than how we saw the J Powell speech last week or 2 weeks ago run the market up. I'm a bit worried that we're going to see just absolute red fucking show stopping candles. I'm trying to find the exact numbers for expectations, and I do have some information here. It says that since June of this year, when CPI was 9.1%, we have decreased all the way to 7.7%. So we're seeing some decent moves on inflation. What do you think of that, Tony? Like just seeing it kind of beginning to top now, because a lot of people think that marks possibly the bottom of the market. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I see. People have been saying that for months now. Um, when the number pivoted and people thought that the bottom was in, and I know we talked about last week. I guess this kind of segues into what we talked about last week with SPY in terms of I'm pretty positive you talked about that short position you were in.
Oh yeah, we're
Um,
gonna talk
and
about
I
that. Don't you guys? Don't you guys?
Yeah, and I know we I know we talked about that it was a good opportunity at that current moment in time, which was last Wednesday. That it was a good opportunity to probably go short just in terms of where we were currently at on SPY, right at that weekly and daily trend line, and you can see we've since dropped um, almost 20 points or so, around 20 points from the day we did the podcast to the low from I believe yesterday. Um, but people keep saying, going back to your question, people keep thinking the bottom's in. And if we're strictly looking at the chart, I would not agree, especially after the rejection we've seen at that trend line. And we're now back under the daily 200s.
Yeah.
We also have potential for a cross to the downside. I will say though, FOMC and CPI are going to be, whatever happens chart wise, say we rip and we rip right through that trend line, I can see a scenario where all of a sudden, bulls take control of SPY if the chart gets blown up. Um, and if your thesis comes to fruition where you think we're gonna knife, well, that knife will probably be, correlated with that cross on the daily.
Yeah.
Um, and looking at the weekly, I mean, those are the two longer time frames I prefer to look at. If we're looking at the weekly, anybody that's listening, there's a ton of room on the SPY weekly all the way down to 370. 370 is where the weekly 200 EMA sits. And there's also a weekly demand zone there. So there really is a ton of downside potential.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know I said earlier about swinging calls into CPI. Obviously, I need to go back and look and see, how those CPI days reacted during pre-market and then into the open. Um, but if, like Ted was saying, we do knife, there is a ton of downside potential. So I would probably be cautious if you're looking to potentially go long. Because we do have a ton of room to the downside, but those two events are really going to determine which direction we're headed in, because we had a significant rejection off that trend line. And if we do knife, there's scenarios where we could make a new low, and test that low from the beginning of October. So, um, but that's just kind of what I'm seeing with those time frames.
Yeah. Yep. So I think these charts. I'll do a little bit of charting here in a minute that'll kind of solidify my viewpoint on this. But the big thing for me about the numbers, the CPI and FOMC. So I feel like just I'm gonna explain this to the viewers, the watchers. The Watcher, by the way, dude, that show ended terribly. I don't know why I just
Oh,
thought
I
of
know.
that. That show ended fucking
Yeah.
horribly. They ruined that so bad.
That's that. Yeah, the writer for that show, all his shows end like that.
American Horror Story writer, isn't that the same
Yep.
person?
Yep.
But okay, regardless, so CPI is going to be the consumer price index, and it's different number than inflation. So inflation is the number that has been decreasing. In November, CPI, I believe I'm looking at this right now. CPI came in 0.4% higher in November, month over month. Which is pretty nice for normal CPI. We've been seeing pretty big increases over the past year-ish since COVID and since we doled out all that money. But inflation right now, after October, is sitting below 8%, right about 7.7%. And we need that to be around 2%, is the Fed's goal. So if you guys can just tell where we're at on this battle, um, we're in a pretty precarious position when you're at 7.7% and you need the number to be all the way down at 2%. Like, that's basically like we've begun. We just are not even close to finishing. So for me personally, I think there's going to be some pain for SPY. I'm in those puts, and we can talk about the exact movement of those puts. Let's go to the daily quick here. So those puts, we talked about Wednesday night. So let's go find Wednesday night. So it was after this market close on this green candle here. We talked about those puts, and so you could have bought them at open on Thursday or any time during Thursday, the day of, and they've moved well over 100% since then. And we talked about it because of the fact that there was this. Let me draw this trend line in here quickly. There was this trend line here on the daily. And I've been posting this on Twitter, by the way, in case anyone is interested in just looking at this trend line. But this trend line on the daily has been intact since, well, I mean, this is the first. The reversal was in January of 2022. But we touched it again in March, touched it a third time in August, and we're touching it again. And so when I mentioned that trend line last week on Wednesday, I was kind of thinking more so we would just see a little bit of consolidation and then a dump after the fact, but it almost dumped immediately. Like it died pretty quickly. The day after the podcast, it was a red candle, wasn't the biggest red candle. The day after that, it was a bit green, which was Friday, and then since then it has just been death. There have been two candles. Let me see how big this one is. This one was 404 to 399, and this one was 399 all the way to 394. So two pretty large candles. Today was also, a bit of a hammer candle to the downside, which is not too bad for bears. But personally, I think this is kind of people, you can kind of take these technicals and add them to the fact that we have CPI and FOMC next week. And there's no real, I guess, validity in having the two on the same playing field, but it can give you clues. And for me, it's giving me clues that people are selling into CPI and FOMC, and usually the people who have enough money to impact the market know a little something more than we do as retail traders. So for me, the fact that they're selling into CPI and FOMC, plus this trend line, plus inflation is still 7% and higher, which is where we want it to be too. It's kind of just leading me to believe that there's going to be some downside come CPI and FOMC. CPI might come in nicer than expected, and we could have a nice day on Tuesday. But I think CPI might create some downside, or FOMC the day after CPI could create some downside, in a pretty nasty area for the end of the year. It's kind of my opinion
Yeah.
on this daily here. What do you think, Tony, about this 200 MA here above SPY on the daily? It's sitting like, where is it sitting at right now? 403 ish, and it's been a pretty big spot since we've been in this bear market. It hasn't really, like, SPY hasn't been able to get above it and hold above it. Do you think that could be like a place to average in going forward if you're taking puts?
Yeah. I actually talked about that in one of the lessons I did last week. If you look at the 21st of April and then the 16th of August, those were the last two times we tested that 200 MA. That first rejection was almost 100 points. And the second rejection was, again, almost 100 points. So I'm not saying that this rejection here is going to be 100 points again, but both of those rejections pushed the daily into a triple cross to the downside,
Yeah.
which we're currently set up um, at the moment. So I'm not saying, by any means that we are going to drop 100 points again, but to answer your question, yeah, that was an extremely key area to potentially go short. We did close above it, at least on my chart, on the 30th, um, but we're unable to, hold above that, and have since dropped quite a bit. Um, I think it would be a little bit different if we didn't have those two events next week. Um, it still would be a good potential short area. But if you do believe that we are going to continue to the downside off those events, then yes, I still think this is a good area to go short. Um, but who knows what happens next week? Those events could blow the chart up in either direction. So, but so far, yeah, that was a really good area to go short off of.
Yeah, we have a question. Mick Schmegma asks us, "What's your upside?" And I mean, personally, for me, I think the upside was kind of defined by the Powell pump that we saw last Wednesday. I think if CPI comes in nice and FOMC and they 50 point rate hike instead of 75 point rate hike, and the market likes that. So there's so many. I feel like we need to pause and talk about this too. There's so many layers to this whole CPI FOMC thing where there's market reaction, there's the actual numbers, there's buyer seller equality based on like weight of each of them, like which one has more power right now. There's technical levels with volume above and below. There's just so much shit. It's almost like you need to treat it as essentially just a lotto play going into it, because it's like if you were to have options, but there were 50 things outside of the Greeks you needed to know. It's almost like everything is working against you. There's going to be time crunch. If you win, you're going to win big. But it feels like there's just so many extra layers that you have to know exactly what you're talking about and have them analyzed to like the nth degree to figure out what's going to happen. But that's kind of just like my basic in summary. It's very risky, so be careful, guys. I don't know why I went onto a tangent there, but just be careful, guys. Like don't go into this with too much of your account resting on whatever you're going to be, calls, puts, whatever sentiment you're feeling. Go into it with a small position size and feel comfortable losing it all is essentially what I want to be saying here. But going back to Mick Schmegma, which by the way is a pretty funny name. Your question, what's the upside? I think the upside is essentially this previous top, so like 410. If CPI and FOMC go well, by the end of the year, I could see like a 420 touch, a 420, a 425-ish area by end of year. But I think the downside by end of year could be new low. I feel like this could definitely crack 350 and see something big, which that's a pretty bold statement since we're only 3 weeks away from the end of the year. But I think FOMC and CPI, the upside is 410 for that basic 2 day stint. What are you thinking, Tony, for upside if both of these go well and or if the market reacts well?
The two targets I currently have are 411.65 and then above that 419.75. And
Perfect.
then my highest target's like 431.8. So those are the three kind of key levels I have. Another level to pay attention to if we do, for whatever reason, rip after those events. I would pay attention to the weekly 50. My weekly 50 currently sits at 410.87. So I would pay attention to that. I'd also pay attention to the daily levels because um, that's something that I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people are watching. So for example, if we rip up into the daily 200 EMA or MA, that could be a potential area that people try to take that short then. Whether it's a short-lived move or it's an actual rejection. So, I would make sure to pay attention to the daily 200s, the weekly 50, and then those other three levels that I mentioned. Um, that's kind of currently what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I honestly agree 110%. Um, I think we're gonna talk about. I have like an earnings report Lotto for people here in a few minutes, but until then, I feel like we should just kick the shit for a minute. How are you feeling about just like trading lately? Have you been feeling like burnt out? Feeling like the market's tough? Like, how are you feeling overall with the whole trading job?
Um, hmm. I don't know if I don't know if burnt out is the word, but I don't know. I've always been since I can remember, I've always been kind of the person that always like wants to do something new.
Yeah,
And or like teach myself something new. Like before I was doing this, I um was running my photography business full time and going to school. Um, before that I was doing videography. So there's always like I've always like been super interested in doing new things. Um, in terms of trading, I mean, sometimes it's extremely stressful. There's always days where I'm like, I just want to open my own bakery or my
yeah,
own restaurant or something like that I'm passionate about. Because most of you guys know that I do enjoy cooking. But in terms of like teaching people, um, that's always something I'm interested in, and that's always something I really enjoy doing. And that's why I know we had, we're working on that that project that we talked a little bit about last week. Um, because I feel like that's something new and something that interests me. But in terms of trading, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before where it's like people glorify trading full time when, it should more be like, well, if I do have a job that allows me to trade, why not do both?
yeah.
Having the security of, you know, a normal job, quote unquote, and being able to make extra money trading, I think is extremely beneficial. I don't think people really understand how stressful full-time trading is. Um, some days you can wake up and just feel like shit and force something. And I was talking to Anthony last week. I had a really, really bad trade, where looking back on it, I didn't necessarily take the wrong trade, but it was one of those trades where, you know, I had a full position and the move went against me like instantly, and by the time I could get out, I was already down quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
which happens. That happens. There's time like today, watching SPY, there was a couple instances when it was trading within that range in the morning where there was flash downs into demand and then it would immediately bounce back up into supply. And I know some people got caught on the wrong side of the move. Um, but there's instances like that where you can't do anything. And I know this is a long answer, but like I think trading is extremely stressful, and yes, there's days that I don't want to trade, or you know, I always wonder what it would be like doing something else, I guess. How about you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel pretty similar. I feel like the market right now is basically survive in advance, and that's gonna like stretch people's patience completely to the complete end of what's possible. And for me personally, like there's been about 2 weeks. I can remember 2 week like individual week period, 5 days long each, where I was just like, feeling like that doubt was creeping in, just basically feeling like, oh man, like this is so stupid. Like I'm so tired of this. Like I can do so many other things with my life. Like you can just feel those thoughts start to come in, and it's like at the end of the day, it all comes back to like just emotions while trading. Like a lot of the time, I'll just let little things like losses when I didn't even have a red day, like but that one loss, I'll like let make bigger in my head, and that's when like I can tell that I'm not in the greatest mindset of trading, or like mindset to trade is when those things happen, because I can feel myself like getting burnt out and then making those mistakes feel massive in my head. And so those are the times where I just have to like take days and go and like, I don't know. It used to be like go and just like play golf by myself when I was golfing this summer. Since I like just started golfing, I would just go golf and be by
Yeah.
myself on the golf course. This fall, it was just like I would when I was feeling that come on, I would like just go sit in the deer stand. I would just go hunting like a month or two ago. Now it's like it's fucking cold outside, and like I don't know what I want to do, but I'm gonna figure out something, because this market is not for trading when you're not feeling like trading. And there's definitely been days where like my mindset has just not been in the right place, and I've been in a weird spot where everything feels like anger provoking. Like all the positions, I'll just be like mad at SPY. I'll just be like, why aren't you doing what I know you should do? And in my head I get super angry about it. And
Yeah.
it's like those are the days where I just have to step back. But for the most part, I feel fine about it. It's just those like isolated moments where they're just like, damn, I need to be doing more. But dude, I'm
Yeah.
excited for us to start this the aftermarket, because I feel like that'll be a good like time. If I'm feeling like I don't want to trade for the day, I can just go make an educational video, and go make something, because I love making videos if they're educational or not. Like I just push out videos on YouTube a couple times a week just because they're fun to do. And so I feel like when we do this, it'll give me something else to do outside of trading. So if I'm feeling like, damn, I don't want to be trading today, I can just go make a video, and then I don't have to worry about trading, which will be super fun and cool.
Yeah, and it's that weird like dynamic too, which this is something I always think about. Like, so me and you have been like involved or running Discords now for like 4 years, 3 or 4 years almost. And it's one of those things too, like, you know, I almost feel guilty when I'm not at my setup or I'm not in Discord, when in actuality, the reason that I wanted to trade full time was so I have the freedom to do what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that weird, like, people think like people see certain Discords, and I know I'm just speaking for myself. Like, I don't make any money from my Discord. Um, you
Yep.
know, so people think, oh, well, you know, what is there to complain about? You're making money through Discord, this, that. Like, no, I'm not. I'm, you know, it's one of those things where I just enjoy being with the people in the Discord. I enjoy helping people. I know you're the same way. I know that's the reason we wanted to start something that was completely education based, where we can still have our Discords now, but also have a place where, a catalog, so to speak, where it's this centralized area for all this information. Because yes, there is YouTube and there's, places you can go and educate yourself. YouTube is much different than having a place where you can communicate with somebody as well, or multiple people, or watch a live session and have your question answered.
Yeah.
I know when I was trying to educate myself, I had so many questions. Like, It was unbelievable. And I would watch something, I'd have a question on that, and then if I wanted that question answered, I'd literally have to go into YouTube and type my question out in terms of, okay, maybe there's a video that answers this question, and then, it's a snowball effect of you always have a new question to ask because there is so much material when it comes to the market.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think what we're doing is going to be very beneficial. I hope. I think it is. So,
Yeah, I agree, man. One thing, dude, I can add to that, like I can feel the exact same way about, questions in like the beginning of learning. I was when I first started trading, like I was Googling everything and I came across I didn't know what someone there was some like I read on like about a famous hedge fund manager, I don't remember the name, and he said like you need to use the daily chart. And so I Google what's a daily chart, and Investopedia or Investpedia, whatever it is, said that a daily chart is when the entire chart is one day, is like the entirety of one day. So I was convinced that a daily chart meant that I was looking at one day on a chart. And at that point, I was using like a line chart. So I would just go to the chart from one day and like not see anything. And I'd be like, this is how this guy trades. He's so smart. I must just not be figuring it out. When in reality, I just wasn't understanding what the fuck they were saying. Like what they were saying
yeah.
was is use the chart that has each candle as a day, and you can interpret it that way because then you can look at if you wanted to look at a year of just those one day candles, you could do that, or you could look at like 2 months, and you can look at it any way you want. Which I wish I would have known at the time, but you know, I figured it out eventually, I guess. But we're just wanting to expedite that process for people. I feel like and give them, people who know what they're talking about and people who are willing to spend time, making videos, putting out videos, giving you guys a syllabus, testing you guys on all that kind of stuff. Basically, just like a college class or a class where you have a professor telling you this is the information you should know. Let's find out if you actually know it, and also letting you kind of
Yeah.
grow into your own type of trader though. So I'm super excited about it. We're working on branding and stuff right now. We're gonna work on Discord and website for the rest of the month, and hopefully get it running January 1st, 2023. It'll be a big accomplishment for us if we can actually get that thing running in the amount of time that we have. I think we can do
Yeah,
it though.
and yeah, I think we have basically everything figured out that we need to have figured out for the time being. Obviously, this kind of like, a website or a Discord is kind of like trial and error, where you kind of figure it out as you go. But it always made sense for me and you to like be together.
Yeah,
We were in, a couple other Discords together prior, and then kind of started to do our own thing, and then, it just makes sense because there's information that I know nothing about. Um, and there's stuff I know that you might not know. So I think being able to work together, is, the right way to go about it.
I agree, bro. I definitely agree. There was one thing that was on my mind that's completely not stock related.
The Vikings,
We can talk about the Vikings all we
dude, they're
want to
getting
talk
so
about.
much. I see them get so much shit.
I don't understand why they get so much shit, dude. They've beaten like three good teams in the past. They also lost to like the two best NFC teams by a large margin, but
Yeah.
like we're like making things happen in the fourth quarter against good teams. I'm just happy they're good. Like they've been so mediocre for my entire life that like if they can just make a decent win two playoff games, I'll be fucking happy. Like win two playoff games and I'll just be completely mind blown and happy with the Vikings this year. Sorry
I
that you
think
have
it's
to watch
because
Najee Harris though.
I think it's um because of Kirk, honestly. I think that's the whole reason that people still say they're not for real, or they get um looked over. Um but they have some really good wins this year. They have that one really bad loss. Who did they lose to?
The
The
Cowboys by like 40
Cowboys.
points or something.
Yeah, but the Cowboys are good.
Yeah, Cowboys are super good.
Dude, you know what the craziest thing is? I'm about to sound like Dustin. there's actually a scenario where the Steelers can still make the playoffs,
Oh Lord.
which they do this every year. Watch, they're gonna finish 500. They're gonna get awful draft pick,
And not do
and it's
anything with
gonna
their
be the
season, bro.
same thing that it's been the last 10 years.
That's the worst, bro. That is
It's
the
the sa-
worst.
they've done this for the last 10 years.
That's what the Vikings have done for a long time too. Is like either make the wild card or like
Yep.
come second in our division and have like a fucking 7-8 record
Like
or whatever it is,
you
seven and
can
nine.
tell, yeah, you can point out the teams that have a chance of winning the Super Bowl. Like you can tell, like there's a handful of teams that can win it. Like, and other than that, it's a long shot. So,
We got a question in the chat here. What did they say? It was Barry who said, "Do both of you feel like scalping the market is the only strategy to use, or if swinging options or shorting stocks have potential if we do reach a long-term bearish market?" I can start with my answer for this one. I think that there are definite, other options that we can exercise. Like the things that you mentioned are actually perfect. So, swinging puts would be a great example of a way to take advantage of a bearish market. The issue is we just don't know how long this bear market is going to last, and we do not want to be on the side of the reversal. We do not want to be on the side of if CPI goes well and FOMC goes well, and this is the market bottom. Like, we do not want to be on the wrong side of that. So there's just got to be, like, you have to tread lightly when it comes to what sort of stuff you're going to be taking. And also, shorting for swing trading short positions is not really my thing due to costs and all that sort of stuff that comes with a brokerage. But I do think that the puts is a decent opportunity. But for me, scalping has been the most easy way to make money in this market, and I would probably recommend that to most people. But the longer term puts, like, that's something I'm experimenting right now with, because I've just been, getting my feet under me for this bear market. But if it works out and I like it, then I will definitely, continue it going forward. What do you think, Tony?
I think the one benefit of, swinging a position, if you're obviously, which I hope everybody would be looking at it technically. Um, and this goes back to that trend line we talked about last week. So, for example, like if you're taking a technical entry like that, you see something that's so close to such a key area, and you're like, okay, I'm putting money that it's going to reject this. And I do want to swing something. For example, those puts you took that expire next month,
Yeah.
that's a great entry. If it breaks above and confirms above, you exit for a small loss. Um, if it does what it did, you either completely get out of it and look to re-enter, or, for example, like Barry asked, if he thinks this bear market's going to continue and last a while longer, and you want to hold on to that, okay, then you scale and maybe you let some of that or a small portion of that position ride. By taking such a good entry or a technical entry, if it just breaks above or below where you thought it was going to go, you exit that
Mm-hmm.
for a minimal loss.
Yeah.
It gets tricky when you're trying to either one, buy in the middle of nowhere, or two, predict how long a market like this is going to last, because at the end of the day, nobody knows. So if you're looking at it, you're like, oh, well, I think, we're going to make a move all the way down towards 350 again. And that doesn't happen. You kind of have to swallow your pride and be like, okay, maybe it's time to get to offload this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the benefit of swinging options.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. I think I'm learning a lot about swinging options right now just based on being in this position. I've swung options before, but never anything like this. I do have another position that I want to talk about. I don't have a position yet because last video If we want full transparency, I was already down like, I don't remember if it was 30% or 20% going into the position that I shared with you guys. It might have even been more. It might have been 40 or something. I don't remember how much I was down, but I was down a hefty position or portion going into that video with you guys. So I'm like just green on those puts when you guys would have been up like a massive amount, 100%, something crazy like that. I'm just green on those, but this time I've been smart and I haven't bought in yet. But what I'm looking at, I mentioned it on if you guys watch the buy and hold videos I put out on YouTube where it's like long-term investment opportunities. Last week I did like AMD versus Nvidia, and this week I did cost, which is Costco. And if you guys watched that, you heard me mention that Costco really looks good to the downside. And I'm actually going to pull up the chart, and you can check it out with me, Tony, and let me know your opinion on this. So I have the Costco. Let me get up the weekly here. So this is the Costco weekly, and what I mentioned on the video that I made was, I don't know why this is blue all of a sudden. I never made that blue. Let's make it a bit bigger here. So this is the pennant that I was talking about in my video on Costco. Is there's those three taps on the upside, and then there are this two already formed taps on the downside, creating a pennant. And we're heading into earnings, which is actually tomorrow after hours. And so I promised on Twitter that I'd give an earnings lotto play going into an earnings report. And this is tomorrow. So this is a very clear, if you're watching this video, you're going to get an earnings play. And it's actually tomorrow. So if you're watching this, you're getting one for tomorrow specifically. And it's at 480. And I mentioned in that video that there's been a trend of Costco missing earnings reports in either quarter 3 or quarter 4 for three and a fourth where they missed, but the market reaction was not what we expected. So back in I don't remember when that was, but 4 years running there is a Costco earnings miss in quarter 3 or quarter 4. So I'll be playing both of these. So you're getting either a dub tomorrow or you're getting a dub quarter 4. Mark my words on that. Actually, don't mark my words on that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. You guys know the deal. But for the most part, Costco quarter 3 or quarter 4 earnings report miss. That is what I'm going to be taking. And tomorrow, I'm actually looking at, I'm going to buy these literally right before close. So within 5 or 10 minutes before the bell. I'm going to be buying probably December 9th, 460 or 450 puts. The 450 puts right now at close today are $1.29. The 460 puts are $2.80. And I'm going to buy them tomorrow, 5 minutes before close, and ride those out. And then if I completely lose all my money on this one, then I'm going to be buying them quarter 4. And these are both lotto positions. So you guys know the deal with lotto positions. Only trade with money you're willing to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use half of my profit from the week. So the last 3 days, however much I've profited, I'm going to use half of that, use that for my position on Costco. And I'm either going to lose half of my profit for the week, which is just fine, because I will have another day to recoup or do whatever. I'll either lose half of it or I will exponentially grow my profit for the week. That's kind of how I do these things. The other thing I want to say is Tony and I appreciate all of you guys tuning into these videos. Drop a like on the video. And subscribe to the channel. You guys know it helps us out a lot, and you guys liking the video just shows us how many of you guys appreciate what we're doing. But Tony, I want to know. Oh, I forgot something very, 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 very important to my Costco play. There's this volume gap below. If you're looking at my screen here, you can see from right below about 450 to 390, there's a massive volume gap, and that was what I mentioned for like the long-term prospect of Costco. But if this gets into that gap, which I mean that's only a 10% move on Costco, it's actually less. It's like an 8% move on Costco. Then there could be massive downside, moving forward. Now I'm going to pass it off to you, Tony. How are you feeling? What do you think about this Costco play that I'm mentioning, just based on this chart? Because I know that you haven't done a lot of fundamental research on Costco.
Yeah, so I'm on the weekly. There is a ton of room to basically almost exactly 400.
Yeah.
My weekly 200 EMA is right at that 400 level. And if it breaks that big wedge or pennant, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
um, there's a ton of downside potential. So if I know nothing about this, if I know there's no earnings or I don't know, any of the fundamentals, I like this a lot. Um, on the break. So, like you said, if they're if you're playing this into earnings and you bet it's going to, break through the bottom of that formation, there's a ton of room to the downside. So, I like that a lot. Something I like is Amazon. I've been
Let
playing
me pull that
Amazon the
up.
last few weeks, and I am waiting for a break on 85.85. Um, for Amazon, there's a ton of downside potential for Amazon. That, hasn't been this low since 2, 3 years ago. Um, so Amazon is something that I'm paying a lot of attention to.
Dude, I'm seeing the exact same thing you are, but I'm also seeing the 200 and the 50 cross to the downside on Amazon.
Yeah,
On
on
the
the weekly.
weekly, that
Yeah.
is like that is just death
Hmm.
waiting to happen. I mean, and you can
A
also,
mega death cross.
yeah, bro, that is like crazy. And then you can see the volume drops off below like 87, and then again below 80. Like that thing has some big time downside. If it gets below 80, thing, dude, that
This
is
is
gonna
yeah,
see
it's
like fucking like 50. It feels like just
this
based
is
on
my
like
top
volume.
long-term ad.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I should do a video on it. I should do a
You
video
should
on
do.
it. Have you
You
seen any of
should.
my buy and hold videos?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I was looking for
Anthony and I were
something
talking
new.
about the AMD and NVIDIA one.
Yeah, bro. That one I actually enjoyed doing that one. I liked the Costco one a lot too, but I should do Amazon next week. I completely forgot that
You
Amazon
you really
existed.
should actually.
Even
Yeah.
though I order like 4 Amazon things a week.
Dude, Amazon Prime's the best.
How
I
many things do
ordered
you order a week, bro? I order way too many.
Dude, you want to hear something funny? I think it was Anthony. I'm pretty sure it was Anthony. He was in Discord with me and I was looking, so I needed, you know what deli containers are?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Barry definitely knows. So I needed deli containers, and I'm looking at the website and it was very vague. Like there was some deal going on, but it didn't say how many deli containers were in each pack. So I'm like, oh, I need like, 50 of them. So I have for a while because I like you use them to like pickle stuff, brine stuff,
Yeah.
put soup in, sauce, etc. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna order 3 packs because I thought that it was like they were 12 packs. Dude, I get this package. It's three 240 packs.
Oh my gosh, bro. How
It
big
was
were
yeah,
they?
how big were
Like
they're
how big were the
they're like
boxes
this
that all those
big.
came?
Oh,
Okay, so not too
it
big.
was gigantic.
Oh
No, the
my
box was.
oh my
I still have
gosh,
the
bro.
box, but they're like this big, each one of them. So I have, what's the math? 720 deli containers?
I think what that means is that you're going to have to make some stuff, put them in deli containers, and send them to me via box. I've heard all about
I can
Tony's
do that.
special sauce, dude. What's it called?
Oh,
You
the
had a
special
specific
sauce?
name for it. Tony's something sauce or Tony's I don't know what it was. You said something about special sauce and then there was like a picture of you with a bunch of herbs on some tomato sauce. I don't know,
I
but it
don't
looked
I
good.
don't know. I don't remember. Was it oh, it was no, that was I was making chicken stock.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. I
dude, that
was
looked
making
super
chicken stock.
good. All I know is that I order like 90% of the things I use on a daily basis from Amazon. Like everything on this table is from Amazon, I think. I'm looking around. This bourbon not from Amazon, but other than that, like Microphone, Amazon. Computer, Amazon. Computer, Amazon. Computer, Amazon. My phone case, Amazon. The mouse,
Yeah.
Amazon. Everything Amazon. Like, I could live off Amazon if I wanted to be honest. I could probably get food on Amazon if I wanted to. They'd probably have like grocery packs on there nowadays.
I know that they had, oh, I'm reading chat. Jackson, I love you too. I hope you're doing good. Um, but I know there was some news Amazon had. It was a couple weeks ago. I can't remember. Somebody in chat might know. Um, Something about laying off a certain percentage of workers or something.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of
Uh,
layoff news lately.
yeah. So, but like outside of that and their earnings, I just, I think it's at an extreme discount, and if it breaks that level, who knows where it ends up.
I mean, dude, look at this daily. Like, I'm just gonna draw this one line on this daily, and it's almost like clear as day that this is so bearish. Like, you just draw this one line, and you can see such heavy
Yeah.
support at $102. Bounces off of it, breaks it below, and then comes up, retests it, and just gets stuffed like nobody's business. That's just so clear bearish. Like, I don't even know what else you can tell people. Like, that is just the most bearish thing you'll see in a while. That's the most
Yeah.
typical setup that I trade on a daily basis is a support or resistance, and then it breaks through, retests, and then you just know once it's at a position like this, you know that thing is legging down. Like it's not guaranteed. I don't want to say that, but that's like such a high clip setup that I trade so often.
Another one that like I know me and you talk about a lot is that I try to watch every day is Ford.
Oh,
Um,
I
they
love
just had
myself
a
some Ford.
if you look at the daily, they have a pretty clear cross to the downside. That is also on a retest of a zone. So, it's had a ton of trouble since the beginning of November with the 200. Um, and has since set up in a pretty perfect cross. So that's always one I'd like to watch in terms of like long-term ads. I don't play it regularly.
Yeah.
But it is a good one for people with smaller accounts. It's a slower mover, but that's kind of plays to your advantage, I think.
If you have a smaller account, it definitely does.
Yeah, so Ford's always one that I recommend for people to watch.
Dude, I think this will be one that when this goes below 1150, because if the market acts how I want it to act, I'm going to talk a quick little point about SPY here in a minute. Okay, first thing first, in the chat, guys, if you want any charts, if you want any questions, like any last Q&A stuff, we're going to be wrapping it up here in the next like 10-15 minutes. We got some important stuff to say left, but if there's anything you guys want to, Tony and I to talk about, it can be literally anything. I remember on this is the thing that I remember, our debut Halt episode, we talked about what kind of way people wipe their butts. So if you have any fucking questions like that, like anything along the
Yeah, you're the
lines,
one that doesn't use wipes.
I don't use wipes, dude. I fold that paper so nicely, though. I don't know how people
But
use wipes
you
and then don't
understand the
wipe their
logic.
butt afterwards. Like, you have to wipe it with, like, something
No,
dry afterwards. You're just having a
wipes.
squeaky
No,
ass. You're giving yourself swamp ass.
no, you're not though. They're not like wipes aren't like soaking wet.
They're damp. That's for certain.
Yeah, but like that's the point. Like they're
Yeah,
used
I
for
see.
for
Okay.
babies that have like explosive shit everywhere. Like that's the whole point.
I see the point of, like, the dampness to
And
them.
also, but like just being real, like it feels better.
When you get out of the shower,
Like
do you
toilet
wipe your butt?
papers. What?
Do you wipe your butt when you get out of the shower?
No. Who does that?
I do, bro. And I've talked to a couple people that are like a couple other dudes, and they're like, if my butt is wet, I'll wipe my butt when I get out of the shower. And I honestly agree. And I started doing that, and I do that now. But like, that's how I feel when I like use a wipe, because my parents at their house have like these like wipe things that have basically like those moist wipes on the back of every toilet, and I used one like a couple months ago, and I was thinking about that podcast moment, and I was like, damn, this is nice. And then I got up and my butthole was still wet. Like TMI, I know, but like it was still wet in there, and I felt a bit uncomfortable. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
think you
think
got
more
to
people
dry it
use wipes
afterwards.
than don't.
Probably, to be honest. I'll be honest. I'm probably the weird one here. Like there's probably a lot of everyone in here is like, what the fuck is Teddy talking about? Like wipes are great. I just like I have to wipe with the dry after the normal, like the wet wipe, the damp wipe. What were we even
You
talking
have,
about?
I don't know, but I have a question. You ever have a Yule log?
Yes, yes, bro. Like a Christmas one.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I have an actual crazy story about that. I can't believe you just said that. If I'm being 100% honest, we had. I hope. Oh man, I hope my Aunt Sherry is not watching this. Aunt Sherry, if you're watching this, turn it off right now. I'm being serious, Aunt Sherry. This is gonna hurt your feelings a lot. All right, now we can actually begin. So, Aunt Sherry made a Yule log back in probably like 2012, and I regret to be saying this. Everyone in the family knew that it was a terrible artistic piece except for Aunt Sherry in 2012. And what we did after that was it became a gift that was left in everyone else's car that you had to babysit for the year, and then you had to put it in someone else's car at Christmas. So it became like this like fun like joke because it was so ugly, and you had to put it in your house. So like if you got it, you had to put it on like your mantle, and then if Aunt Sherry came over, you had to hope she didn't notice or like whatever it was. So like we gave it to my cousins one year, they gave it back to us, they gave it to, and regretfully as a teenager, I put the Yule log on a Christmas sweater and wore it to Christmas while Aunt Sherry was there. And she recognized the Yule log.
She was probably so upset.
And I'm gonna stop the story there because she recognized the Yule log. And as a 16-year-old boy, I could not contend with a 50-year-old woman yelling at me or a 60-year-old woman. But that's the story. But what are you talking about, a Yule log?
Oh, I was just saying that I'm gonna make some, and I didn't know if you ever had them.
You're probably gonna make them way better.
So yeah, some people make them with like put all kind of different fillings in them, but I like to put like what was the one you had? What was the filling?
Wait, what are you talking about? What do you mean by
What are
Yule log?
what are you talking about? A
I'm
Yule
talking
log?
about like it looks like a tree branch with like fucking like Christmas lights around it and shit.
N no,
Are you talking
it's
about
like a
food?
yeah.
Oh, dude, we're on a complete disconnect right now. My Aunt Sherry's Yule log was like a piece of artwork that was like a tree
I was about to
branch.
say, how do you keep this thing for a year if it's
Yeah.
food? No, bro, it's
You thought I had like a fucking like lemon roll thing in my
I was so confused. I'm like, that's gonna get all like moldy and shit. No,
No.
it's like it's almost like it's like a roll. It's like a rolled sheet cake with like filling in it.
Oh, dude, I make those with my dad. We make lemon ones. It's a sheet cake with like lemon inside. Those are fire. What kind are you gonna make? Like what are you gonna do for the filling?
Well, Yule log's chocolate and like uh I use like a coffee cream filling.
Oh, that
It's like
sounds
chocolate
fire.
ganache on the outside. Yeah, they're really good.
I just
But
made a
you're supposed to
chocolate
shape it like a
ganache.
log.
That
That's the whole
sounds
point.
really good. Yeah, like a
Yeah.
pumpkin roll, like John said. Yeah, dude, no. My Aunt Sherry's, I don't know why we called it Yule log. Maybe we were using the wrong name, but yeah, it was like a tree branch with basically like Christmas lights wrapped around it. And then she put cinnamon sticks on it so it smelled, and then like pine needles as well. And yeah, you can imagine what it looked like. And she
That's
gifted
funny.
it to my grandma as like a legitimate gift. And my grandma pulled it out and like didn't know what she was looking at or something. Like I don't remember what it was. Maybe that's not even the right story, but like I remember she gifted it to someone and it just everyone just looked at it and we just like didn't know what we were looking at.
That's funny.
I made a chocolate ganache for Thanksgiving for my wife's family. And I didn't know my recipe did not say that I needed to put it in the freezer for a while. So I like put it in the fridge and cool it down. So I tried to take it out like an hour after I baked it and I broke the
Hmm.
entire thing in half. Just completely my entire cake was busted in half. And and so I took it over there basically like a big like lump of cake with like it was a tort with ganache on it. And Yeah, I fucked it up, but it tasted amazing. Like it was fantastic.
Do you have a KitchenAid?
No, actually.
That should be your next purchase.
It definitely, honestly, I was talking to my wife about it like probably a few months ago, and she's like, "You don't need that," and I was like, "I cook everything you eat. Like, you don't get a decision in
Well,
this. Like,
you can use it for more things than you think, and if you get one, make sure you get the bigger one.
it's the one that like has like all the attachments on it, right? That you get to like stick and oh my gosh.
Yeah, it has a million attachments,
I had a
but I use
question.
mine all the time.
I had a question for you. Have you ever been to the Appalachian Mountains?
Nope.
Well, dude, have you ever heard of the stories of like skinwalkers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a weird experience that happened to me a few months ago. Not a few months ago, probably more like a few weeks ago. So I was out hunting. I bow hunt and I shot a buck. So this buck like walked down the ravine. It was like perfect. I wish I had a video of it so I could show everybody. But it walked down the ravine and I like used my deer call, like a grunt call, and I shot this deer with an arrow. Come to find out later, it was only like a flesh wound. Like I only hit him like on his skin and like cut his skin and stuff. Um, but so he didn't die. But there was blood everywhere, and like I followed him, and there were like a trail and stuff. But I shot him at night, and there were these deer that came over after I shot him, and it was dead of night. And I'm not kidding. I have like this is a legitimate story. These deer, like there were like four of them, and there were like two right here and then two in the middle, and they were like so they were like spread out around in like a half circle around me, and it's pitch black out, and I'm shining my light out while I'm looking for this deer, and they're all staring right at me. And like my dad was there too, and like the deer were there and he saw them. And so like I was convinced for a minute there, I was thinking I was like seeing stuff because these deer were all
Mm-hmm.
just literally like this. Like they were like staring at me and would not move. But there were four of them, and they just looked right at me after I had just shot their buddy. And like I don't know if I just had like a weird fucking like situation where these deer just like walked in, but usually when you're like hunting, if you're walking, you don't see deer because they hear you. But these deer were
Yeah.
probably I mean like 20 yards away. Like I could have shot them where they were standing with my bow and arrow in the dark. Like they were that close. I could see all four of them. And I was just like, dude, am I seeing stuff at first? And then after a while I was like, I'm definitely not seeing stuff. And then I
Mm-hmm.
was wondering like what the fuck are these deer looking at me? And then I was like, maybe these skinwalkers are going to kill me, but I didn't get killed, so they probably weren't skinwalkers. Just a weird experience, but it made me feel immensely uncomfortable.
There's when my mom used to live here like a long time ago, there was this one buck that would always come to the backyard and it only had one antler. And it would play with my dog. My dog, the dog
That's
my
kind of
mom had
cute. That's kind of
was a
cute.
pointer. Yeah, it's kind of cute until the one time they were playing and
Oh.
it stabbed my dog and he had to get rushed to the emergency vet
Oh my goodness,
and
dude.
get surgery. Yeah. But they play together
And then
and
he
like we always
stabbed
had,
her. He betrayed
yeah,
her.
well, he didn't mean to, but we always had deer that like would come into the yard.
That's
And it
cool.
was so weird because like normally you see a deer and it instantly runs.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't
But
you
they
kind of
were
live in the
like,
mountains?
I used to. Now I live in town, but yeah, I used to live on top of like a mountain in Pennsylvania, so it's not as obviously doesn't compare to like mountains in like Colorado or something, but
Still a mountain. I mean,
yeah.
where I live, I cannot see a hill that goes over 20 feet in the air for like 100
Yeah.
miles. So it's better than
Yeah.
what we got here. Let me let me see if we got any last questions here. I don't think we have any. Oh, I got a compliment. They said sick hair, man. Actually, dude, I was about to
Hair
go.
does look good.
Thanks, man. I was about to get a haircut that was. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It's like shaved on the sides, but like a fade on the side, and then like you keep it. It's almost like a mullet, but not a mullet. But then I
I
decided
know what you're
not to.
talking about.
I decided not to. Do you have anything last to say, Tony? Any last topics you want to talk about?
Oh, the last thing I want to say is my fantasy team is
Yeah. Tell us how that went. I want to hear. I want to hear all the injuries you had because I know you had like over
My,
5 of them.
my entire team is hurt. Last week I forget who I was playing. I had 100 points and I still had Lamar Walker for the Seahawks and my tight end to play. All three of them got hurt, and between the three of them, they scored a combined 1 point. So the only starter I have left is Diggs.
Oh my goodness, bro.
My entire team's hurt. Waller hasn't played.
I've got
It's
Waller too.
I was 6-1. I'm 7-6 now. My season's over.
Dude, that
That's
sucks.
just that's like the nightmare fantasy scenario where
Yeah.
like you can't. It's just like luck. Like you can't. What
That's
can I do?
that is so
You know who my
trash.
quarterback this week is?
Who?
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett. Bro, you need to pick up Brock Purdy.
Yes,
You know
I
they
almost
do.
picked him up, but
You should not pick up Brock Purdy.
the problem with him is he has so many weapons. Like
Yeah. He's
I
just
feel
gonna
like they'll
dump the
feed
ball off, bro.
McCaffrey. Yeah,
He's gonna dump the ball off, and then they're just gonna have playmakers, like just
yeah.
absolutely running after the catch. I don't know if anybody. I think I told you guys this, but Brock Purdy was my Econ 101 partner in
That's so
college.
funny.
Yeah, dude, it's the craziest year for
That's so
football
random.
of all time. Like Brock Purdy, like I did like assignments for Brock Purdy because he was just like busy and he'd just be like, "Oh, like I'm just you just like work on these." So I just work on our econ projects because I knew it was Brock Purdy. I was like, "Oh, yeah, there's no way I can ask Brock Purdy to fucking do more work." And then, bro, the Heisman candidate Max Duggan, he played at Lewis Central in college or in high school, and I played at Ankeny High School, and me and him fucking played against each other in high school for football. Like, how can I make this up, dude? Two people that I know are like on big stage football now. That's just so crazy, absolutely nuts. But my fantasy team is I started off 1-5, and now I'm 8-5. Or I started
Yeah,
off
you're
one and
the
four
opposite of
and
me.
8-5. And it's all, dude. It's all thanks to Josh Jacobs and Keenan Allen, bro. That's all I can attribute it to. Those two dudes are playing their asses off. All
Bro,
right.
you know what's funny too? The last thing I picked up Hardman the week before he went off for 3 touchdowns.
Oh my
The
god.
week after, hurt.
Yep, bro. It feels like I don't know what it is, but the Chiefs receivers, none of them can stay healthy.
Nope,
Like none.
no.
Last few words from me are I'm just gonna summarize, dude. Costco puts for the earnings report in quarter three or quarter four. I might have had Skinwalker Deer about to attack me. I'm not sure. Sherry, Yule Log, uh,
Amazon.
Amazon puts, guys. Amazon is bearish. Spy CPI. Trade lottos. Don't trade anything crazier than that. That's all I've got. Thank you guys all for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I always go back and look at the rebroadcast. Um, kind of watch over and see if anybody ever, has any questions or comments. I know you said people liked the tier talk thing we did. Um, we like to be serious, but at the same time, kind of keep it light and um, you know, just talk about whatever sometimes. So, um, but yeah, I like this format. I know once we start the project we're working on, I'm sure this will just get elevated. So
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'm excited for that to come out, and yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week.
thanks everybody.
Peace out, guys.